Hello, everyone. Good morning to you all. Kindly confirm you can see my screen and you can hear my voice clearly by typing hi in the comment section so that we can get this session started. So if you can see my screen, you can hear my voice clearly. I need you to type in hi so that we can confirm we're all on the same page. All right, so what's happening in the comment section? Hold on a second. Okay, 359, good morning to you. How are you doing? Susie MB, good morning. Hey, Carrie, good morning to you. All right, thank you for that confirmation. I hope we had a wonderful weekend. It's a new week, and I hope we are all excited and ready to take advantage of any trading opportunities for this week. Okay. Okay, good morning, Carrie. Thank you. All right. So I think we are good to go. So I want to welcome you all to yet another promising session on Extreme Speed Live, hosted by myself, Sheriff Daramola. And as usual, I will be taking you on a trading journey in the next 1 hour, where we shall be evaluating the financial market using technical parameters to identify trading opportunities lining up for us this week. Well, for the fact that today is the first day of the new week, we are going to be taking random pairs, after which we are going to be analyzing those pairs and see if there are any trading opportunities that we could actually take advantage of. And if during the next 24 hours we are able to take advantage of a trading opportunity, then throughout the course of the week, these shall be the pairs we are going to be monitoring. However, if you have any pair you want us to look at, it could be a commodity, a cryptocurrency, an option, whatever it is. If you want us to look at this, kindly drop it in the comment section and I will try to incorporate it into my plans for this week. So for this week, I have like 7 pairs I'm monitoring, which I actually uploaded on my TradingView platform, and we're going to be looking at those pairs this morning, and let's see if we could be having any trading opportunities that we could take advantage of. So without further ado, let's dive into the chart and let's see what is happening here. Okay, 359 says it's good to go. All right, so let's dive into the chart and let's see what is happening at this point in time. So the first pair we are going to be looking at is the US oil. And what do we have here on the US oil? Well, the first thing we want to be doing right now is to scale up to the higher time frame, and let's take a look. Let's take an holistic view of what is really happening in the market around this time. Well, like I always been saying since my previous analysis on this pair, we can see that price action has been on a strong bullish momentum in the last 2 years. And as a result of this, we were able to connect the series of higher lows here to give us that resultant bullish trend line that we were able to identify here. And this line has been guiding price action on a bullish turn since the beginning of the year. Okay, hold on a second, please. I'm trying to. All right. So, in addition to this current structure we have here is the 1006, sorry, the $86 level, which has been a major determinant of price action for the last 3 to 4 months now. Let me show you what I mean by that. So if we zoom into the current structure here, we can see we have this very important $86 level. And if we look into the past, I think as far as the month of August, we saw how this level has been a major determinant of price action. So what do I mean by that? So look at what happened here in the month of August. We saw bullish potential from that area as we saw how participants in this market actually gathered right above the $86 level to push price to the upside. We also saw something like that in the later part of the month of August, but this setup here was met with strong resistance from the sellers as we saw how sellers push price right below that $86 level, and throughout the course of the month of September, we saw that price was trading right below the $86 mark. And not until the early days of the month of October, we cited this breakout of the structure to emphasize a bullish momentum. And with the current information I was able to share with you right now, you would agree with me of how important the $86 level has been. As you can see, every time price comes within this area, it either rejects it, breaks it down, or supports this price. So following the OPEC Plus meeting 3 weeks ago, where they decided to cut oil production by 2 million barrels per day, we saw this impulsive move that took price right out of that $86, breaking out of that structure, breaking out of the bearish trend line that has been guiding price action since the month of June to give us that bullish signal. And from a technical standpoint, whenever we have a breakout of structure like this, we expect the price is likely going to come back to do a retest of that structure that was broken to probably give us a situation where price might be going to the upside from that area. And in the last week, during the last week trading session, though price has been trading right below the $86 mark, as we can see here. So throughout the course of last week trading session, we saw price trading right below the $86 level, giving us a clue into how strong the sellers are at this point in the market. So because of the structure here, and considering the fact that we have this impulsive move, and then we saw the retracement of that impulsive move coming to do a retest of that structure that was broken 3 weeks ago, we want to see what's happening around here. As we can see, we saw consolidation phase around this below the $86 level during the course of last week's trading session. So we want to see what is really happening around here to see if there is a situation that will be giving us either a bullish momentum or a bearish momentum. So we need to scale down into the lower time frame to see how participants in this market are actually relating with this current structure to determine where we'll be heading for this way. But before I go into the lower time frame, I want to let you know here that there are two scenarios that we are going to be looking at from a holistic perspective here. And the first one is a buying opportunity. And the reason why we want to be thinking of buying opportunity here is simply because of this impulsive move which we witnessed 3 weeks ago, and we saw price coming back to do a retest of structure here by retracing back into somewhere within our golden zone area, where we want to be looking out for patterns on lower time frame that will be supporting a trend continuation to the upside. But if we want to buy the US oil, we need to be very careful here, as we would not ignore how strong the sellers are at this point. So we want to see a signal in such a way that price breaks out of the $86 level to give us that bullish signal that a trend continuation to the upside is about to happen. And if a breakout of that level happens, remember, we are not getting too excited, as we want to wait for price action to give us further confirmation, which is likely going to come in the form of a retest of structure, after which we look out for buying pressure on lower time frame to join the rally to the upside. So that is one scenario we want to be looking forward to. And then the other scenario is a situation where price might likely break down this demand zone here, then a retest to structure to send price crashing to the downside, which for me at this point doesn't seem likely. But if the structure gives us that signal, we have no other choice but to join that decline to the downside if the breakdown of the $82 level happens. So with this information right now, let's scale down to the 1 hour time frame. Let's see how participants in this market are actually relating to this current structure, and let's use whatever formation we have there to take advantage of any trading opportunity. So scaling down to the 1 hour time frame, what do we have here on the 1 hour time frame? So what we have here on the 1 hour time frame, we can see we saw the situation. Price started the week at around the $85 mark, and then we saw bullish attempt. Actually, price started on a bullish note as we saw price move to as far as the $86 level, which is the significant level we identified on the daily time frame before we started seeing this bearish momentum to the downside. So let me adjust this key level so that we can see it on our screen. Let me give it okay. So as you can see, price has been trading right below the $86 level, And remember, we have this demand structure around this area, around the $82 mark, which has been holding price action supported. And for me, like I said earlier, that if you want to be selling this, I want to see a situation where price will break down the structure, then retest of structure to go to the downside. But I want to show you something, how I took advantage of the sell momentum here at the beginning of the week. Hold on a second, I have a chart here which I want to show you. Okay, so this is what I saw here of the 1 hour time frame, and then price has been trading right below the $86 level. Then I looked at what happened since the later part of last week. We saw how price has continued to find higher lows, and as a result of that, I was able to connect the series of higher lows here to give me that resultant bullish trend line. And what we saw during the early hours of this week was a breakdown of that bullish trend line to emphasize the strength of the sellers. So coupled with the fact that price has been trading right below the $86 level, we finally saw a breakdown of that temporary bullish trend line to emphasize the strength of the sellers at this point. So going into the New York session today, I was able to identify this $84.50 area, and you can see what happened here during the course of last week. We saw how this level was holding by pressure, then it was broken to the downside. We had a retest of structure, buying pressure came in one more time, we saw another buying pressure around this area, we saw a breakdown to the downside, we saw a consolidation phase around this area before the final breakdown during the early hours of today. So I took advantage of that move right around that area as soon as I saw that breakdown of that structure. But if you are not yet in the trade, well, I will be advising that we wait for price action to give us a retest of that structure. It could be the retest of that bullish trend line or the retest of the $84.50 area. Then we look out for selling pressure on lower time frame to join the decline to the downside. So that is how I intend to trade the US oil for this week. And remember, I told you we are looking forward to buying opportunity on this one. But one thing I'm going to say here is that we are not going to be looking for buying opportunity unless price breaks out the $86 mark. So what I'm simply saying is that if a breakout of the $86 mark happens significantly well with an engulfing candle, and then we have a retest of structure with buying pressures on lower time frame, respecting both this bullish trend line and the key level at the $86 mark, then we want to be joining the potential rally to the upside. So as long as price trades right below the bullish trend line, we want to remain our sell position. So going into the New York session today, we have two parameters that will be guiding our action. We have the bullish trend line, which I was able to connect the series of higher lows here to give us that temporary bullish trend line. So if price climbs up that bullish trend line, we want to be looking for buying opportunity, and if price drops below that bullish trend line, we want to be looking for selling opportunity here. So for the bullish opportunity, we want to wait for price to break out of that $86 mark, after which a retest of structure will give us a confirmation to join the rally to the upside. So that is how I intend to trade the US oil for this week. So let's see if there are any questions in the comment section before we move on to the next pair. So if you have any question whatsoever, feel free to drop in your comments, your inquiries in the comment section, and let's see how I can be of help. And if there are none, I will just have to move on to the next pair. So let's see. All right, Kimokuma 82, good morning to you. 638, good morning. 1192, good morning to you. Jobiro, how are you? Okay, so in the absence of no questions, let's move on to the next pair. So the next pair we are going to be looking at today is the US tech. And what is happening on the US tech? So let's scale up to the daily time frame. Let's see, let's have an holistic perspective into what is really going on in this market, after which we will be making our decision on our lower time frame. So here on the daily time frame, well, The first thing we were able to observe here on the daily time frame is that price action has been on a bearish momentum since the beginning of the year, and as a result of this we were able to connect a series of lower highs here to give us that result and bearish trend line, and this trend line has been guiding price action to the downside. Well, after considering this impulsive move that took price right out of the structure, we saw that buyers came here to resist all selling move around the $11,000 area, and we saw price climb right back to respect that bearish trend line one more time, but attempt by the sellers to break down the 11,000 area was still met with stiff resistance from the buyers. So as a result of this, I was able to identify this demand zone around the $11,000 level, and we want to be using this demand zone as our yardstick going forward. So we want to expect that this demand zone is going to support buying pressure around this area in such a way that price continues to the upside from this area, as it already has this memory for buying power, which we identified here in the month of June. But if a breakdown of that demand zone happens, that is, we want to see a significant breakdown of that structure, then we will be having a bearish signal, after which a retest to structure will likely be sending price to the downside. So that's the first two scenarios we want to be looking at. But if we look at what happened during the later part of last week trading session, we saw that we had this, I think in the last 2 weeks on this one, we saw this sharp rejection that happened here, and what happened afterwards was quite interesting, as we saw bullish engulfing candle taking price right back above the demand zone. We saw the structure, and it appears that the bullish momentum are actually coming in at this point, as participants in this market are now thinking that the US tech is quite cheap to buy at this point. So if we scale down to the 4 hours time frame, we begin to see things more clearly, as we can see price action has been finding higher lows since last week trading session. So what do I mean by that? Look at what happened. So it was the lowest point price action got to after breaking down that demand zone, that is the $10,450 level, and we saw that there was a very sharp rejection of that area, emphasizing the strength of the buyers. And since then, price has been finding higher lows and higher highs, and as a result of this, we want to be shifting our perspective into a possible bullish momentum. So the next thing we want to be doing here is to connect a series of higher lows here to give us that result and bullish trend line that we want to be using to guide our action for this week. So we have bullish trend line drawn out right now, and we want to be using this to guide any bullish momentum here. So what this simply means is that as long as price stays above that bullish trend line, we want to be comfortable in our buy position. However, if price breaks down that bullish trend line, then we want to be thinking of selling if a retest of that structure happens. So right now we have price action trading right above that bullish trend line, and the next thing I was to do here is to see our participants in this market actually related with the structure. So we saw at the beginning of the week price started at around the 11,300, then we saw bearish momentum as price came back into the $11,250 level here. So we have a level here. Hold on a second. So we have the $11,250 level, and why do we have that level around this area? Well, first of all, this level is right above that demand zone, and let me delete this one, we don't need this. So we have this level right above that demand zone, that's number one, and we can see at one point in time this level has been a major determinant of price action. We saw it was a demand niche here, though we saw the breakout of that structure here. We saw retest to structure, we saw the breakout of that structure. We saw this area, we saw a sharp rejection, we saw the breakdown. Price traded below that 11,250 in the last 2 weeks. Then we saw a final breakout of that structure during the later part of last week trading session to give us a clue that there is a possibility of a bullish momentum here. So going into the new week, we have two parameters that will be guiding our action. The first one is the bullish trend line here, and then the other one is the key level at the $11,250 mark. Now we have an impulsive move that took price right out of that bullish trend line last week into this area at 11,500. So I want to label this level let's label this 11,500 because it's a very important level as well. This is the highest point price action I've gotten to this week. So we need to emphasize the importance of that level. So we have that 11,500. Let's label this area for the sake of clarity. So we have 11,500 level, and let me give this a purple color. So we have something like this. So now our job for this week is to see how participants in this market will be relating to this channel that we just saw here. So are we going to be having a situation where price action is going to go through a consolidation phase, something like this, before we see another breakout of that structure to emphasize a trend continuation to the upside? That is one scenario. Or are we going to be seeing a situation where price action will do a retracement back into hold on a second, we have, let me bring out my Fibonacci retracement tool, and then we have we identify the area between the 50 and the 78.6% of that previous impulse leg there. So I'll give this a yellow, and then I'll name this a buy zone. So are we going to see a situation where price is still going to come back into the buy zone, which lines up with that bullish trend line, after which you look out for reversal pattern, breakout of the 11,250 to join the rally to the upside? So that is another scenario we are going to be looking at. So one thing we want to do now is to scale down into the 1 hour time frame, and let's see what is really happening in this market. So getting down to the 1 hour, and we find here. So we can see that price hold on, let me bring this closer to our view. So we want to be patient enough to see how price action is going to relate to the structure. So there is still a possibility that price might come as far down into this area before we start seeing that bullish momentum. But if you can afford such a huge stop loss area that is somewhere below the 10,800 area, you could actually join around this area. But if you can't afford that, let's hold on and wait for a breakout of the $11,500 mark to give us a signal that there is a bullish momentum coming in. And if a breakout of that level happens, remember, we don't want to get too excited. We want to be patient enough to wait for price action to come back into the structure to give us a further confirmation to join the rally to the upside. And then if price significantly breaks down that bullish trend line here in such a way that we have something like this, then we want to be seeing this as a bearish signal. Then we wait for a retest of the structure to join the decline to the downside. So this is what we are going to be looking forward to. So at this point, let's remain patient and wait for price action to dictate our next move. So we have two scenarios we are looking forward to at this point. We have, for bullish momentum, we have a situation where price is likely going to come back into the buy zone area, which also lines up with the bullish trend line. Then we look out for buying opportunity here to join the rally to the upside. And if price does not come that far, and then we see a situation where price climbs above the 11,500 area, then a retest of structure should give us a confirmation to join the rally to the upside. And then the other scenario, if we are looking for selling opportunity here, remember we are still right above that strong demand zone we identified on the daily time frame. There's a demand zone here. We are still above that demand zone. I would suggest that if we want to sell the US tech, we want to see price actually break down that bullish trend line significantly well by taking out all the buy position here, taking all the buy position around this level. Then we see this as a bearish signal. Then we wait for further confirmation in the form of a retest to structure to join the decline to the downside. But at this point in time, I'm still thinking that price action will be going to the upside. So let's get ourselves prepared for either of this perspective that will be coming in during the New York session today. And if you have any questions, feel free to drop in your inquiries. We'll see how I can be of help. Maury Yasmin, good morning to you. Scott Benji, good morning. How are you doing today? And trust you had a wonderful weekend. All right, so let's move on to the next pair. And the next pair we are going to be looking at is the XAUUSD. So on the XAUUSD, what is our expectation here? Now, the first thing we'll do here, first of all, to scale up to the higher time frame, let's see what's happening from an holistic perspective. Let's see what's really going on here. And when we look at what is happening on the higher time frame, we can see that price action has been on a bearish momentum, and as a result of that, we were able to connect a series of lower highs here to give us that bearish trend line. And this trend line has been guiding bearish momentum since the beginning of the year. And in addition to that structure is this key level at the $1,680 mark. And if we go into the, if we rewind back into the past, we can see that this level has been a major determinant of price action. See what happened here in the month of July. We saw how buying pressure came around this area. Then we saw buying attempt also during the later part of the month of August, but this was met with strong resistance from the sellers, thereby pushing price to the downside. And throughout the month of September, price has continued to trade right below the $1,680 level. Though we had a breakout in the early days of this month, and price came back again in the last couple of weeks to start trading right below that structure. So the $1,680 level is a very significant level we need to look out for. And what this simply tells us is that there is a very strong selling momentum on the XAUUSD, and considering the two structures I just identified here, one thing you want to be thinking of is sell the XAUUSD, of course, because we have a bearish momentum and we have a situation where price has been trading right below the $1,680 mark. However, there is a structure here that wants us to think otherwise. And what structure is that? That is the $1,620 level. We can see what happened here. As sellers try to push price to the downside, we saw that as soon as it got into the $1,620 level, we started seeing buying pressure from this area in such a way that we saw huge engulfing candle that took price right back into that bearish trend line. And we saw another retracement back into that structure during the course of last week's trading session. And as soon as price got into the 1,620 level, again we saw buying pressure from that area. So as a result of this, we had no choice but to identify this level as a demand zone. As we can see, every attempt by sellers to push price right below the structure has been met with very strong resistance from the buyers. So in that regard, we want to be looking forward to buying opportunity because of this. Look at what happened during the later part of last week's trading session. We saw a huge engulfing candle taking price right out of that demand zone, taking out all the sell position around this area. And so that's simply a sign that buyers are very strong at this point. So we want to scale down to the lower time frame so that we can see what is really going on around this area, and then let's see if we could actually buy the XAUUSD this week. So in order to do that, we had to scale down to the 4 hours time frame, and on the 4 hours time frame we begin to see reversal patterns right within that demand zone here. So look at what happened here. We saw this impulsive move right from that bearish trend line we identified on the daily time frame, and we saw how this $1,680 level has been holding selling pressure in the last 2 weeks on this one. And look at what happened here. Throughout the course of last week's trading session, we saw our price has been trading right below that key level at the $1,680 mark. Remember, this is the $1,680 mark. Let me bring it in a little bit so that we can see it here on the 4 hours time frame. So we can see throughout the course of last week, price has been trading right below this level, and in fact it went through a uniform downtrend, and as a result of that we had this temporary bearish trend line. As you can see here, we had this temporary bearish trend line that's guided price action back into that demand zone. And as soon as price got into that demand zone, what happened? We saw multiple rejection of that area, giving us something that looks more like a reversal pattern. And whenever we have a reversal pattern like this, hold on a second, the next thing we want to be doing is to identify the neckline of that reversal pattern. So let me show you the reversal pattern here. So we have this situation, we had this impulsive move, price came into the demand zone, we saw the first touch here, price came back, and then we saw the second touch. So in that regard, I was able to identify the $1,640 level as my neckline for this reversal pattern. And if you look at this $1,640 level, let me bring it out a little bit. So we can see what I'm talking about here. So we saw the $1,040 level here. Look at the past. Look at what happened last week. We saw buying pressure from that area last week. We saw the breakdown of that structure. We saw selling pressure again. That is, sellers wanted to push price to the downside, but was met with strong resistance from the buyers, as we saw a final breakout of that neckline during the later part of last week's trading session to give us a clue that buyers appear to be pushing their stance in this market. So because of the breakout of this neckline, we want to be seeing this as a confirmed reversal pattern, and a breakout of structure like this. What do we expect? We expect that price is going to come back and do a retest of the neckline that was broken last week in such a way that we start having buying pressure around this area to give us an opportunity to join the rally to the upside. So as a result of this, what I did next was to identify this impulsive move. We saw this impulse leg, and then we used our Fibonacci retracement tool to identify a buy zone within the 50 and the 17.6% of that impulse leg, and that is why I have a buy zone here. And if you look at the buy zone we have here, it also shares a confluence with the neckline at the $1,640 level. It also shares a confluence with the it also shares a confluence with the bearish trend line that was broken. So we saw the breakout of the bearish trend line here, and we expect that price might likely come back to do a retest of the structure, after which we want to be looking out for patterns on lower time frame within this level that will be supporting a trend continuation to the upside. So this is what we are going to be looking forward to on the XAUUSD for this week. And as at the beginning of the week, let's scale down to the 1 hour time frame to see how participants are actually relating to this current market structure. So when we scale down to the 1 hour time frame, what did we see here? Well, we saw our price started at around the $1,655 level at the beginning of this week, and then we saw a huge move where price tested the $1,670 level here. And what did we see here was a sharp rejection of that level, giving us a clue that sellers are actually here. And one thing I want to see this move as the incitation of the retracement phase of this impulse leg that happened here. So we had this impulse leg here, and I want to see this selling pressure as an incitation of a retracement into our golden zone area, where we want to be looking out for patterns on lower time frame that will be supporting a trend continuation to the upside. So this is what I'm going to be looking forward to. So we need to be very patient here, and let's wait for price action to evolve accordingly. So there are two scenarios we are looking forward to buying opportunity here. We are looking forward to price coming within the structure, lining up with that trend line that was broken last week. Then look out for patterns on lower time frame that supports a trend continuation to the upside. That is one scenario. Then the other scenario is this, that if price does not go this far and just continue to respect the neckline that was broken last week, and we start seeing buying pressure or multiple rejection from this level, then we want to be thinking of buying this at the breakout retest of structure on our lower time frame. And now, where will our take profit target be if price now continues the buying pressure here? Well, in the meantime, I will be suggesting that we have our take profit target right around the $1,680 level. Remember, this is the very important key level we identified on the daily time frame. So we want to be having our take profit target around that area. And if you look at the structure here, the take profit, this key level lines up exactly with the bearish trend line that we identified on the daily time frame. So if price comes within this area, we want to monitor how price action will relate to that structure. That is why our take profit target will be there. So let's see what happens if price comes here and probably turns out to be a reversal pattern. It could be a second wave of a bearish momentum that we want to be looking forward to, or we could have a breakout of structure to signal a bullish trend continuation pattern. So this is what we want to be looking out for today on the XAUUSD. So I will advise us to remain patient here, and let's wait for the structures to line up for us to be able to take advantage of in either of this move. So that is that on the XAUUSD. If you have any question, feel free to drop in your inquiries in the comment section. And what do we have here? Halabai 18 is saying salute, good morning to you. Then we have 3113, good morning. Just 10, good morning to you. 0112, good morning. All right. Innocent babe is not yet in the room. Okay. All right. So let's move on to the next pair. In the absence of no questions, yeah. So the next pair I want to be looking at is the XAGUSD. I want to we're trying to visit the XAGUSD again for this week. Remember, we took advantage of some momentum in a couple of weeks ago on the XAGUSD, and I was able to cite a pattern here that looks promising for the week, and I decided to include it in my watch list for this week. So on the daily time frame here, the first thing we observe here is that price action has been on a downtrend, and I was able to identify two structures to guide to emphasize that selling momentum here. The first one is the bearish trend line, which you can see here after connecting the series of lower highs here. Look at what we have here. Though we had the breakout of that structure here, price came back to come below the structure, and we saw since then price has continued to respect that bearish trend line. So that's the first structure we have here. Then the second structure I was able to identify here was a descending channel, and this descending channel you can see after connecting the series of lower lows and lower highs here. So we had a breakout here, price came back within the channel. So this is the lower low here, we have the lower high, we have the lower low, we have the lower high here, and we have the lower low as well, and then we have the lower high. So we can see we have both a bearish and a bearish trend line and a descending channel here to emphasize the strength of the sellers and the points in the market. Now the third parameter is this very important key level at the $21 mark, and look at what has been happening since the month of May and see how this level has been a major determinant of price movement. Look at what happened here. We saw buying pressure, we saw the breakdown of that key level, price dropped down into this area, then we saw another selling pressure, a retest of that structure, the same thing again, another selling pressure. So since the month of May, price has been trading right below the $21 level, emphasizing how strong that structure is. So what this simply means is that this level has been holding selling pressure since the month of May, emphasizing how strong the sellers are at this point in the market. However, something interesting happened since the month of July. Despite the fact that price has been within that descending channel, we can see that as soon as price gets into the $18 mark area, we saw buying pressure coming in from that level. So you can see since the month of July, anytime price comes here, we see buying pressure. We saw here in the month of August as well, and then we saw again in the month of October. Then during the course of last week's trading session, we saw multiple rejection of this area, giving us a clue that buyers are coming in this market. So now, seeing multiple rejection of this level during the course of last week's trading session, what does this tell us? It tells us that it's more or less like a reversal pattern. As you can see, price we saw this impulsive move. Hold on a second. What's wrong with my mouse? Okay, we saw this impulsive move to the downside, and we started seeing multiple rejection of this level, and then we saw the breakout of the neckline. So I will show you that on the 4 hours time frame so that we can see this clearly. So before I go down to the 4 hours time frame, there are two things we want to be looking at here. This demand zone can serve as a yardstick for two possibilities for this week, and the first possibility is that we could cite reversal pattern right above this demand zone that will send price to the upside, and then we could actually cite a bearish signal in such a way that we have a breakdown of that demand zone, retest to structure to send price to the downside. So let's scale down to the 4 hours time frame. Let's see what happened right above that demand zone during the course of last week's trading session. So we scale down to the 4 hours time frame here, and let's see what the structure is going to be giving us. So on the 4 hours time frame, what we observe here is one, we saw something that looked like a reversal pattern here in the form of a triple bottom structure. We saw the first touch of the demand zone here, first rejection by the buyers, second rejection by the buyers, and on Friday we saw this third rejection by the buyers on this one, emphasizing how strong that level is for buying power. And whenever we have a reversal pattern like this, the next thing we want to be doing is to a neckline structure that we want to be using to guide our trading opportunity in the nearest future. And what happened on Friday was quite interesting. we saw the breakout of the neckline area at the $18.90 level to give us a signal of a bullish momentum. And whenever we have a breakout of structure like this, that is, price breaks out of our neckline, what do we expect? Of course, we expect that price is going to come back, do a retest of that structure, evolve into a reversal pattern, or probably buying pressure coming in around this area. Then a breakout retest on lower time frame will be confirming that bullish momentum that we want to be waiting for at this point. So as a result of that, I was able to identify this buy zone. So we are looking forward to price coming back into this neckline to do a retest of that structure before we start thinking of buying the XAGUSD. So on the XAGUSD as well, we need to be patient here, and let's see how participants in this market is going to relate to that neckline area. And then if that happens, we look for buying pressure on lower time frame, then we could actually join that potential rally on this one. So on the 1 hour time frame, I want to show you what has been happening since the beginning of the week. So since the beginning of the week, price has consolidated between the $19.70 level and the $19.40 area. So we had a situation where price was caught within a consolidation phase initially at the beginning of the week, right within that level. Then we saw the breakdown of that channel, then a retest of that structure to give us that bearish momentum. So I'm thinking this is more or less a retracement of that impulsive move we witnessed last week, and let's wait to see how far this retracement phase is going to go. So is it going to go as far as the neckline area where we start seeing buying pressure, or is it going to go as far as coming into the buy zone area around the $18.50 area where we start looking out for patterns on lower time frame to join the rally to the upside? So we also want to be patient on the XAGUSD. Let's see how participants in this market relate with the structure. Then we will be making decision as soon as we start seeing reversal pattern that supports a trend continuation to the upside. So for the XAGUSD, where will our take profit target be when buying pressure start coming in? Well, in the meantime, we don't want to be too ambitious here. So our buying pressure should be at our take profit target should be at the $21 level. Remember, this level has been a major selling niche for participants in this market since the month of June. We remember that I identified at this level, and you can see it also lines up with the bearish trend line I was able to identify here on the daily time frame. So let's place our take profit target around that area. Let's see how price action is going to relate to the structure, after which we will be reacting to whatever happened around that area. So we could have a reversal pattern here that will send price to the downside, or we could actually have a breakout of that structure that would incite a trend continuation to the upside. So let's see what happens, and if we start seeing that bullish momentum, let's place our take profit target around that area. So the next pair we are going to be looking at for this week is the I'm also looking at the USDCAD as well for this week. And what do I see on the USDCAD? Let's scale up to the daily time frame. The dollar has been very strong against the Canadian dollar since the beginning of the year, and as we can see here, we are on a bullish momentum on the USDCAD. But something interesting happened during the month of July stroke the month of September, as we saw how the 1.32 Canadian dollar level was holding selling pressure between the month of July and the month of September. So we saw selling pressure around that area. Every time price comes within this level, that is buyers try to push price right above the structure, but you can see every time it does that, sellers come in to push price to the downside. And during the later part of the month of September, we finally witnessed the breakout of that structure, and price continued to climb to the upside on this one. And from a technical standpoint like this, whenever we have a breakout of a structure, we expect that there is a likelihood that price will come back to do a retest of structure, after which you look out for patterns on lower time frame that will be supporting a trend continuation to the upside. So that we have that technical standpoint in view, what has been happening since the breakout of that 1.32 Canadian dollar level? So what has been happening since then? Look at what has been happening. So we saw this impulsive move, And as soon as price got into the 1.400 level, we started seeing selling pressure from this area. And one thing this simply tells us is that this is likely going to be turn out to be a reversal pattern that will be inciting the retracement of that impulse leg. And if we take that impulse leg into consideration, running our Fibonacci retracement tool through that impulse leg, I was able to identify our golden zone area right within the 50 and the 17.6% of that impulse leg here. And that is why I have my take profit target for selling opportunity here and buy position, buy zone for, let me label this as a buy zone too. Let me label this as a buy zone. So TP target for sellers, and we have this area as a buy zone also. So this is what we are looking forward to here. So I'll delete the retracement tool, and this is what we have at this point. So we are looking forward to price coming within this area, within the 1.32 area, to join the potential rally to the upside from here. So there are two scenarios here. There is a likelihood that price will come into break down this bullish trend line, come into this area, then we look out for buying opportunity right from that level. That is one scenario. Then the other scenario is the possibility that price might respect this bullish trend line one more time and start pushing price to the upside, breaking out of that bearish trend line, retest it to send price and go to the upside. So these are the two scenarios for buying opportunity on this one. So let me scale down to the lower time frame. Let's see what is really happening around here, and let's see how participants has been relating to this current structure since the beginning of this week. So scaling down to the 4 hours time frame, what did we see on the 4 hours time frame? Well, the first thing we notice on the 4 hours time frame is that we have a supply zone around between the 1.4 area and the 1.39. As we can see, every attempt by the buyers to push price right above that level has been met with stiff resistance from the sellers. And in addition to that, I was able to identify the 1.37 area as well, as I want to see price break down, retest that structure for me to join a bearish momentum. So we have the 1.37 area, which you can see was also a very strong determinant of price action in the past. So what I was looking forward to is, if price going to break down that structure, then I want to be looking for a retest of structure to join the decline to the downside. So now, considering this impulsive move that happened during the later part of last week, I think on Friday we saw this impulsive move into this area, and since the beginning of the week, price started here at the 1.36. We've been seeing a bullish tone to the market, and I want to see it as a retracement of that impulsive move. So I was able to identify a sell window here, and using my Fibonacci retracement tool, I was able to identify that sell window. Hold on a second, let me show you. I think I used this one. I used two impulsive moves. I used this one first, and I used this one as well to identify that sell window. And what I did here as well was to connect the series of lower highs here to have this bearish trend line, which also lines up with the sell window here. And I'm thinking that price coming into this area will be giving us an opportunity to sell the USDCAD. So I want to see price come back, though we had a bullish tone at the beginning of the week price. So I'm looking forward to price coming into the sell window here, looking out for selling for reversal pattern, breakdown retest on lower time frame to join the decline to the downside. And if price breaks down this bullish trend line here, and that is another further confirmation that the sellers are very strong in this market, and if a retest of structure happens, I want to add more position to my existing trade on the USDCAD. So these are the scenarios I'm looking forward to. However, if price breaks above that bearish trend line, we want to be patient enough to see what happens afterwards. So if we have a breakout of that structure, let's see if a retracement comes back, do a retest of that structure with buying pressure around this area, then we want to be seeing that as a trend continuation to the upside. So that's what we want to be looking forward to. So where's our take profit target for selling momentum here? That is, if we are going to be selling right below the 1.37 Canadian dollar level. If we are going to be selling right below that level, we want to be having our take profit target somewhere right below, somewhere around the 1.32 Japanese Canadian dollar level. We should be dovetailing to a minimum of 400 pips, so about a maximum of 600 pips thereabout. So let's see how this goes. So as soon as price comes here, we'll start thinking of buying opportunity if price moves in that direction as expected. So that is that on the USD card. If you have any questions, feel free to drop in your inquiries in the comment section, and let's see how I can be of help in that regard. So the next one we want to be looking at is the, let me see, the next one I want to be looking at today is the, let me take the GBPUSD instead. Let me take the GBPUSD instead. I would have loved to take AUD/USD, but let me take the GBPUSD instead, and let's call it a day. So on the GBPUSD, remember we've been on this trade since last week, and what we noticed here, the most important thing we noticed there, first of all, it's a bearish momentum for the GPU. It's very important. We must emphasize that, as we can see the bearish trend line after connecting the series of lower highs here. However, the most important structure I want you to see here is the 1.1400 level. And look at how price action has related to that 1.1400 level in the last 3 to 4 weeks now. Look at what happened in the month of September. We saw buying pressure here, which led to a significant breakdown of that structure. And from a technical standpoint, whenever we have a breakdown of structure like this, we expect that price is likely going to come back and do a retest of that structure. So we saw the breakdown. Price came back to do the retest of structure a couple of weeks ago. I think 3 weeks ago, price came back to do the retest of that structure. And since then, price has been trading right below the 1.1400 level. And look at what happened last week. We saw multiple rejection of that area, sharp rejection of that area. Price was unable to go to as far as the 1.14, and in fact, at the attempt of reaching there, we saw sharp rejection from the sellers around that area. And this gives us a clue that sellers are still very strong at this point in the market. But in as much as the market structure is saying that sellers are very strong in this market, look at what, let me show you again. We see this 1.1400 level. You can see how this level has been holding certain pressure for 3 to 4 weeks now. In as much as this is telling us that sellers are very strong at this point, we cannot ignore the fact that in the last 2 weeks, price has been finding higher lows. And as a result of this, I was able to connect a series of higher lows here. Look at what we have here to give us this temporary bullish trend line. I would call it for now. We have this temporary bullish trend. As you can see, price has continued to respect that bullish trend line. So one thing I'm saying here is that I'm tending towards a bullish momentum on the GBPUSD on a long-term perspective. But before I could buy the GBPUSD, I need to see a breakout of the sell niche. Remember, this selling niche has been holding. So sorry for that. So in as much as I'm thinking of buying the GBPUSD, I need to see price break out of this 1.14 area. I want to see price take out all the sell position here. Then that will give me a bullish signal. Then I could actually think of taking advantage of a bullish momentum here. Hold on a second. I don't know what's wrong with my mouse. It just kept moving at a very fast pace. I'll have to do that at the end of the session. So I want to see price break out of that 1.140 area to give me a bullish signal. Remember, we don't want to get too excited at the sight of a breakout of that structure. We want to be patient enough to see price come back, do a retest of the 1.14 area to further give us a further confirmation that price is actually going to be going to the upside. So that is the first scenario we are looking at on the GBPUSD. And then when I scale down to the lower time frame to see how participants in this market are actually relating to the 1.14 area since the beginning of this week, what I notice is that hold on a second, let me show you. This is what I noticed. This is what I noticed here. So at the beginning of the week, we saw a huge gap, a huge bullish gap, something like this. We saw a huge gap right here. Price closed the week at around the 1.13 and price opened the week at around the 1.3850 level. That's around like 50 pips gap. That's a bullish gap, and for me, it's a signal that the institution are thinking of buying the GBP USD. But the rejection of the 1.1400 again at the beginning of this week is a point of concern. And with the sharp rejection of that level, what happened afterwards was quite interesting. We saw that price continued to find lower heights, evolving into a double top structure. And from a technical standpoint, whenever we see a double top structure like this, we should be thinking of a reversal pattern. So we saw the first touch, price came back here, second touch, and then price is still oscillating right around the 1.13 area, which is going to be serving as the neckline of this reversal pattern. So one thing I'll be doing right now is to wait and see how price action is going to relate to the structure. So if we're going to be having a breakdown of this 1.13 area, then that could likely incite a bearish signal. But remember, we are not getting too excited. We want to wait for further confirmation, which is going to come in the form of a retest of that structure with selling pressures on lower time frame to join the decline to the downside. And if that happens and price breaks down this bullish trend line, a retest of that structure should be giving us further confirmation to add more position to our existing trade. So that is how I want to look at the GBPUSD for this week. So what this current structure is saying is that we want to sell. So we wait for confirmations to happen in the form of a breakdown retest of that structure. But in the long term, I'm still looking forward to that buy momentum here. That is, if price breaks above the 1.14 area, then I want to be getting ready to buy this. So that is what I'm looking forward to on the GBPUSD. If you have any questions, let me see in the comment section, and I will be willing to be of help. Thank you very much, Streamroller. All right, and then Trunk Ong, okay. All right, so let's do a quick recap of what we talked about so far today, and let's call it a day. So we get ourselves prepared for the New York session. So the first pair we looked at today was the US oil as usual, and on the US oil, I shared with you a selling opportunity that I took advantage of this morning. Though I'm looking forward to buying opportunity here, but since I cited that breakdown of that structure, I took advantage of that move, and look at what's happening right now. Price is coming back into my entry point right now. So like I told you earlier, we saw the breakout of this neckline. So if you had missed this move, let's wait for price action to come back and do a retest of the $84.50 level. Then if we see selling pressure here, we want to join the decline to the downside. And if price continues to go to the upside right above the $84.50 level, we want to get out of any selling momentum here. So I'm still expecting price to break out of the $86 mark. Remember, I told you how important that $86 mark level has been, and price has been trading below that $86 level in the last couple of weeks now. And we noticed something on the daily time frame. Remember, we noticed that price action, we noticed the breakout of that. Hold on a second, let me show you here. So we noticed the breakout of the key level here 3 weeks ago, and we're expecting that price will come back here, do a form a reversal pattern here to send price break out of the $86 level. So I'm still waiting for that move to happen. But while I wait and the structure is giving me a selling opportunity, I don't have any choice than to take it. So I have moved my stop loss to break even at this point, and let's see what happened afterwards. So if price comes back into the $84.50 level, we start seeing selling pressure. We want to join the decline. But if price continues to the upside, let's wait for a breakout of the $86 level, retest of that structure to give us confirmation to join the rally to the upside. Then we moved on to the gold metal, where we identified a buy zone right around the neckline area. We saw a reversal pattern right within the demand zone. We saw the reversal pattern here. We identified the neckline at the 1,640. We saw a breakout of the neckline during the course of last trading session, and we expect that price will come back, do a retest of that structure, Then we look out for patterns on lower time frame that will be supporting a trend continuation to the upside. So that's what we are looking forward to on the XAUUSD. Take profit target still remains around the $1,680 level, and the reason why we are having our take profit target here is simply because we want to see how price is going to relate to the structure before we make any further decision on this one. Then the next pair we looked at is the silver, and on the silver we have a similar scenario with what we have on the XAGUSD, where we saw a reversal pattern right above that demand zone. Hold on a second. So we saw a breakout of that neckline. I don't know what's happening to my mouse here. We saw a breakout of the neckline. I'm expecting price to come back and do a retest of structure. Look out for patterns on lower time frame to join the rally to the upside. So let's see how this goes. That's that for the XAGUSD. Then we went on to talk about the USDCAD as well, where we were able to identify a sell window here, and price action has rejected that sell window already. So below the 1.3700 looks more promising to sell the USDCAD for this week. So let's see how that goes as well. And then we went on to talk about the GBPUSD, which is the last trade for the week, and I said we should see how I'm looking forward to a buy opportunity on the GBPUSD, but the current structure is suggesting a bearish momentum. As we can see, price rejected the 1.1400 level one more time again, and then we saw a structure that evolved into a reversal pattern. So we want to see a breakdown of that 1.13 retest of structure to join the decline to the downside. If a retest happens, we had more position to the straight as price action moves into the neckline area at the 1.0900 level. However, if at any point in time we have a breakout of the 1.140 level, retest of structure will be giving us a confirmation to join the rally to the upside. So that is that on the GBPUSD, and that's how we ended the day. And I hope we get ourselves prepared for the New York session with all the scenarios I was able to simulate for you today. As you can see, things are starting a little bit slow today, and that is peculiar with Monday session. So we want to be very patient. Don't let our emotions get over us. Let's be very patient. Let's wait for confirmations to happen. We want to see structures line up in our favor, and whenever we cite a breakout of a structure, remember we want to wait for confirmation in the form of a retest of structure before we want to be joining any rally or decline. So patience is required on Monday like this. Let's be very patient and see and wait for structures to line up before we join any potential rally or decline. So on this note, I want to wish you best of luck during the New York session, and I look forward to seeing you same time tomorrow as usual, 11 a.m. West African time, 10 a.m. UTC as usual, and let's gather here one more time to review what we've done today, and let's get ourselves prepared for the New York session tomorrow as well. On this note, I wish you best of luck and do have a wonderful day. Bye bye.